Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced, and welcome to another episode of Gnarly Data Waves. And today we're going to be talking about how your Lakehouse just got gnarlier, what's new in Dremio, including next-gen reflections, just talking about sort of new features in Dremio, and sort of just the new exciting advancements in the Dremio world. But first, like to invite you to actually get your hands on the Dremio platform. And it's really easy to get started with Dremio for free in the form that you prefer. Okay, so Dremio offers a self-managed software solution where you can deploy using Docker, Azure, AWS, Google, Google Cloud, Kubernetes, whatever deployment model you prefer to deploy to your own VPC or to meet your needs. Or if you don't want to have to deal with any of that deployment and you just want a fully managed solution, we have Dremiocloud, where you can just sign up in a few minutes and have a fully managed Dremio instance running for you to do queries. And again, if you want to try out Cloud before you create a new account, you can always click that test drive button to do a hands-on, no-cost, no-obligation test drive. But you can find the links to all these options by heading over to dremio.com/get started. And you can do that also by scanning that QR code right on the screen right now. Now, also, again, over here at Dremio, many of us are the co-authors of Apache Iceberg Definitive Guide. Okay, me and Dipankar Mazumdar, two of the co-authors of Apache Iceberg Definitive Guide, will be at Data Day, Texas in January doing an Iceberg AMA. Now, if you want to get an early copy, an early release copy of the book, just scan that QR code right there, and you will have an early release copy. Or you can also head over to dremio.com and pick up a early release copy right there as well. Dremio is going to be at all these events between here in October, November, December at Coalesce by DBT in October 16th through 19th, Data Lakehouse meetup in London, October 17th. We're going to be at AWS re:Event in Las Vegas at Microsoft's Azure and AI conference in December 5th through 7th in Orlando. So we will be, well, everywhere. So if you're at any of these events, make sure to visit the Dremio booth, come say hi, and let us talk to you about the amazing things going on in the Data Lakehouse world. But with no further ado, let's get on to our featured presentation. Today's guest is going to be Colleen Queen, product marketing at Dremiosonar here at Dremio, and she's going to be talking about how your Lakehouse just got gnarlier. What's new in Dremio, including next-gen reflections? Colleen, the stage is yours.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for joining, everyone. My name is Colleen Quinn, and I am the product marketing manager for Dremiosonar. And we're super excited to share some recently added capabilities in Dremio and tell you how your Lakehouse just got gnarlier. I love that these are called gnarly data waves because I don't get to use the word gnarly often enough in my day-to-day life. So anyway, your Lakehouse has indeed gotten gnarlier. I'm going to talk a little bit today about a very recent release that we launched last week in early September of 2023. And I'll also give you a little bit of a retrospective on some other fantastic new features that we've launched in Dremio in the last several months. Before we do that, I just want to quickly talk to you about our agenda. We will be going through a little bit of a Dremio overview for those of you who may not yet be familiar with who we are and what we do. And then we'll jump into the fun stuff. We'll talk about what is new in Dremio. We'll talk a little bit about our Arctic Intelligent Data Catalog and Lakehouse Management Service, which we launched earlier in 2023 as well. And then we'll give you some tips on how to get started so you can start using these new capabilities right away. So for those of you new to Dremio, I want to spend a few minutes just again explaining how Dremio helps deliver unified analytics access across all of your data with lightning fast query performance. So what you see on this slide is kind of a common data and analytics challenge that so many of our organizations deal with. It's no secret that as data volume goes up and velocity increases and variety increases, it's harder and harder to securely put data into the hands of all of the users across your organization who do want data access. Scaling a data warehouse is expensive and complex. Data lakes are easy to scale, but as I think you probably know, it's often really hard to govern a data lake. And governance is critical to making sure that your data is secure and in the hands of the right users at the right time. And quality is wonky. I always say that data lakes become data swamps. And then every time you need to analyze your data, you have to move your data from the data lake into the data warehouse. You have to clean and normalize that data and prep it so that it is ready for analytics. All of these things are expensive and take time. And time means that your users are not getting the most rapid access to the data that they need to make the decisions that drive your business. Let's not mention that different data users want different tools to analyze their data. And so you need all of the best of breed analytics tools that sit on top of your data warehouse, and that can also be piecemeal and expensive. And then to top it off, you're often locked in with proprietary formats, and you've got this natural tension between IT and your data users, stuck in the middle, trying to balance that delicate dance of data access and control, and balancing governance and control. So it's hard at the end of the day. That's where we come in. So Dremio makes it really easy to deliver an agile, flexible, and open data lakehouse. So what's a lakehouse? When we think of a lakehouse, we describe that as, and what it is being able to use your data lake in very much the same way that you would use your data warehouse. Your data lake becomes a single source of truth that's transactional and has ACID compliance on top of that. So you can use the data in your data lake just as you would a data warehouse with that same flexibility, agility, and speed. And that's what we enable with a seamless, intuitive semantic layer that sits over all of your data, wherever it lives. So data lake, yes. Data lakes multiple, yes. And all of your data sources. We allow you to analyze that data in place without endless data copies, without complex ETL, with no data movement. You can analyze the data in your data lakes and across data stores, and that can be hybrid on-premise and cloud environments as well. And you can manage data quality and recover from errors. You can have full auditing capabilities of your data usage, full data lineage across all of your data, both in your data lake and outside of your data lake. Dremio is open and cost-effective. We're built on open source technologies, including Apache Arrow, projectnessie, and we're apacheiceberg native for our open table formats in the data lake. And all of this saves time and reduces IT management and allows your data engineers to be as productive as possible, allowing them to focus their attention on high-value tasks that deliver analytic insight to the business, as opposed to managing brittle ETL pipelines. And it's fast, really fast. So Dremio supports sub-second BI workloads with ease. And we do that with a combination of our super high-powered SQL query engine, and then a very innovative query acceleration technology that sits on top of that called Reflections. So let's take a closer look at our two primary services. So first we have Dremiosonar, which is the core of Dremio, which is our unified data access platform. This is where users can have a unified governed view of all of their data. And this is where you use Dremio's powerful SQL engine to interact with that data at scale for analytics in the data lake and across all of your data sources. As I mentioned previously, Sonar is built on Apache Arrow as our distributed execution engine. And Sonar works directly on your data in place. We use an innovative query acceleration capability called Reflections to achieve those sub-second BI workloads. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into Reflections in a bit when we talk about some of the new capabilities that we've introduced in Dremio recently. Our second major service is Dremioarctic, which is our Lakehouse management service. And this is in preview in Dremiocloud. Arctic is built on open source projectnessie and natively uses apacheiceberg table formats for its data catalog. You can use Arctic catalog for centralized data governance. It enables fine-grained access control over all of the data you manage. And you can also use Arctic as a comprehensive audit tool for the data it manages. Arctic uses Iceberg to provide automated intelligent table optimization services, and all of this goes a long way to even further accelerating query performance. And Arctic is also the foundational platform for Git for Data, which we'll talk about further along in this presentation. But Git for Data is super cool. It's our innovative data versioning and branching capabilities. And we'll talk about some of the common use cases that Git for Data enables. Okay, so let's jump into what's new. So we're always continuing to expand and enhance Dremio's capabilities across both of these services. But I'd like to first talk a little bit about how Dremio is integrating generative AI capabilities. Our goal with generative AI is to make Dremio even more intuitive and smarter and easier to use. So let's talk about where we've started. Our first generative AI feature was the addition of text-to-SQL. I'm going to demonstrate this for you in just a second here. But basically, you can now use text to generate SQL queries. You don't even need to know SQL. As someone who doesn't write SQL and develop in SQL, this is a game changer. Dremio already offered a very simple and powerful no-code capability. So you could already drag and drop data elements to join those data and create new views or new data projects. So the drag and drop no code capability has already been in place for a long time. And that was always my preferred way of writing SQL. But now with the text to SQL, it's incredibly easy to ask a natural language question against any of the data you have access to. And in later versions, coming this year and next, you'll be able to iterate on that generated SQL, much like you would with ChatGPT, to further enhance and generate new SQL. Okay, great. So let's take a look at how the new text-to-SQL generative AI feature works in Dremio. I've already logged into Dremiocloud and I'm in Sonar. I'm going to quickly come into my Sonar project. There are a number of ways you can query data in Sonar and use BI tools, but today I'm just going to narrowly focus on that cool new generative AI feature. So I'm going to come over here those are our jobs. I'm going to come over here and take a look at all of our data sources. And I know the question I want to ask. I don't need to be familiar with these data sources really at all. I just need to drag and drop them over here and I can ask a question about the data. So I know that I have a New York City taxi cab data set that basically tells me the frequency of cab rides, costs, durations, all that good stuff. I've already built that into a view here called Gen AI demo. But let's say I was a data analyst at Uber and I wanted to use this data to evaluate, say, tipping behaviors over the course of time. Are tipping behaviors going up or down? I can pull this into a BI tool and do this as well. But really, I'm just going to go ahead and ask a question, type a question in this generative AI text-to-SQL pen. And then just type, what is the average tip, if I can type correctly, for 2019? And I'm just going to click this generate button right here. And you'll see that Dremio automatically generates the SQL. I don't need to know how to write that SQL at all. Takes just a quick second. If I needed to edit that SQL syntax, I could do that if I wanted to then build onto that query. But I'm just going to run it today for purposes of our demo. My query is running. And in just a quick second here, I can see that the average tip in New York in 2019 was just over $1, almost $1.33, which isn't a significant tip. But you can see here how the generative AI capabilities work. And then you can just layer that on to all of your other Dremio capabilities. If this is a data project or a query or a series of queries that I intend to run often, or if I need to share with other folks in my organization, I can just go ahead and save this view and give it a new name. And next time I come in, I can just tipping behavior 2019. I can pull that up again. But that's how generative AI works in Dremio Cloud. So let's take a look at what else is new. But we're not stopping with text-to-SQL. Our vision is to deliver a completely intelligent, autonomous semantic layer through generative AI. And we're already making improvements to make data exploration easier and more powerful. So coming soon, we will be improving our current wiki capabilities, which are already really comprehensive and allow for great data context. But we'll be improving those wiki capabilities to have data set descriptions and context automatically generate using generative AI. Today, you need to manually go in and type those data descriptions, but Dremio will be able to derive the context of that data and provide meaningful data descriptions. And then we'll also be using generative AI to automatically generate labels for tables and views. And all of that's coming soon and just some of our first steps in generative AI. Now let's talk about query acceleration. I am really excited to talk about next generation reflections. So I mentioned reflections earlier in our conversation. And so really, reflections are one of Dremio's biggest differentiators. Reflections are our innovative query acceleration technology. And with Reflections, our customers can achieve sub-second BI performance and SLAs. If you are a Dremio customer and you're not using Reflections yet, you should. So think about Reflections as being optimized really for BI workloads. And BI workloads tend to be the majority of queries that are run across an organization. A reflection is an optimized cache of a table or a view that can be used to partially or wholly accelerate data processing. That means when you have a reflection set up on a data set, the Dremio query engine will automatically use the reflection to accelerate the queries by matching and substituting them into the query plan on the fly. And it can do that for the entire query, if you have a reflection that matches, or it can do it for just part of the query to just accelerate that one piece of the query in that plan, which is incredible. Reflections are reusable across queries. So behind the scenes, Dremio intelligently matches existing reflections, as I said, to either the entire query or to partial queries. And guess what? There's absolutely no need to create a BI extract or import. So this means they're fast and they're cost effective. The great thing about Reflections is that they're transparent to end users. So when I was doing that generative AI demo just a moment ago, Dremio would automatically be able to take a look at that query. And if a reflection matched that query, Dremio would automatically accelerate that query using the reflection automatically without me as the user having to do anything. I may not even be aware that a reflection exists. And so then it's automatically applied against your queries automatically when they match. Dremio rewrites that query if the match exists. And the result, and this is crazy, your queries are 10 to 100 times faster. I mean, these are huge orders of magnitude improvements in performance. And then also significant TCO improvements for analytics. Because you're able to just accelerate those critical queries and deliver that insight to the business almost instantaneously. But don't take my word for it. This story is a real world impact story from one of our customers about how they applied Reflections and literally accelerated their query times and slashed query performance or slashed query times by 99%. So dramatic. So listen to this. Dremio is fast even without Reflections, as I mentioned. So we've got really intelligent query planning and optimization that makes Dremio super performant even without Reflections. So this customer had a production query that was taking 70 minutes, over an hour to return. I've waited for queries for 5, and it's kind of like when your internet doesn't work. You really don't know what to do. It's terrible. So this particular customer had 70 minutes to return one of their production queries. So by simply just deploying Dremio on top of Amazon S3, that query time plummeted to 33 seconds. So 70 minutes to 33 seconds. Mind you, all of that is without Reflections. When they created a reflection for that same query, that query time dropped again from 33 seconds down to 3 seconds. So imagine that, 70 minutes, well over an hour, to just 3 seconds. And these are common results. So in this recent release in September of 2023, we launched some really critical enhancements to Reflections to make them as simple and easy to use as possible. And so in 24.2, we launched what we're calling Next Generation Reflections, a series of Reflections enhancements designed, again, to make Reflections as easy to use as possible. So let's first take a look at Reflections Recommender. So while Reflections have always been fast, and they've always been transparent to the end users, configuring them did require significant familiarity with your data. So you needed to understand your data. You needed to understand common query patterns. You needed to understand and analyze workloads. Which queries were taking the longest? Why? Were they critical to the business? And so all of this meant that if you were to build a reflection, you had to be someone who was really hands-on with the data in order to make that reflection valuable. Now, you don't. It's amazing. With Reflection Recommender, we're taking the first step to solving for that. Now you can automatically get an automatically generated reflection that's optimized for your queries. So here's how it works. You first need to go in and just take a quick look and understand where do you have queries that have bottlenecks. So that customer who with Dremio saw that query time slash from 70 minutes to 33 seconds. That 33 seconds may not be sufficient for a mission critical BI workload. You may need to get it down to that 3 seconds or that sub-second performance. So the first step is just identifying those queries that you know need to be faster. You might get that feedback from your users. That may be something you experience yourself. You just identify that job ID and you use a simple table function to submit that job ID, and Dremio does the rest. Dremio will fetch that query, analyze that query, process that query to generate a new reflection to accelerate that query, and output the SQL commands to build that reflection. You simply take those SQL commands, you save that as a new reflection, and then off you go. That reflection will be automatically applied to that query or any matching query. Automatically, it will behave just like any other query. And so what does that mean? You're seeing significant time and cost reduction when it comes to building and managing a reflection. You no longer need to be the data expert. You don't need to analyze those workloads. You don't have to have expertise in the data. And once you've created that reflection, it's just as simple to manage as any other reflection created without the recommendation. So we feel like this is really game-changing in terms of making reflections even easier to use. And if you stay tuned, we're going to keep building on those capabilities. We've also optimized how reflections are refreshed to put the freshest data in your hands faster. So as your data changes, if you have a reflection, it's necessary to refresh the associated reflection to just ensure that that source data is fresh and accurate. With improved intelligent reflections refresh for Apache Iceberg tables, now reflections will use the Iceberg manifests to track data changes and update your reflection caches. It will do this incrementally and instantly. So your refreshes will be faster and less expensive, and you'll have confidence that you'll have the most updated data for all of your analytics. And we're delivering these optimized Iceberg table refreshes as both snapshot-based for append-only changes, and then partition scope for DML changes. So again, all of this makes reflections even faster and easier to use and more cost-effective. Also, several months ago, I wanted to just mention that we've increased your ability to have clear observability in reflections. So now it's easy to track and see real-time information about all of your reflections, including when they were last refreshed, when they were used, what data sets they accelerate, and more. And so all of this is already in Dremio, and you can use this again to keep track of your reflections and understand how they're being used. Okay. So let's switch gears. We talked about next-gen reflections. I'll tell you how to go kick the tires on that in just a second. But I want to talk about some other additional features that we launched in September of this year, 2023. And those are significant changes and improvements to table format support. So table formats really are how you take your data lake to a lakehouse. And we really believe that open table formats are the foundation of an open lakehouse. And that's why Dremio is built on the open table format Apache Iceberg. We think the future is open data architectures. We think that open data architectures allow you to remain positioned for whatever innovation comes down the pike. And we believe that open table formats are really that critical transition point from the data lake to the data lakehouse, where you can actually transact on that data lake and have ACID compliance. We love Iceberg. Dremio is Apache Iceberg native. If you don't know, Netflix created Apache Iceberg to address performance and inherent issues and usability challenges in Apache Hive tables in large and demanding data lake environments. And really, your data lake environment is probably large and very demanding as well. And so many of the big tech companies are adopting Iceberg as their data lake foundation. And as we said, it's the key to enabling that transactionality and ACID compliance on the data lake to turn your data lake into a data lakehouse. So Dremio is designed to be the best SQL analytics engine for Apache Iceberg. Not only can Dremio read and analyze data in Iceberg, we have sophisticated Iceberg capabilities that allow our users to realize a data lakehouse, and that is that transactional data lake with warehouse performance and flexibility. Dremio already supports DML for Iceberg and is ACID compliant. And as we mentioned, these are key traits for data warehouse caliber analytics. We also deliver and streamline Iceberg's native table optimization capabilities. That also helps accelerate query performance. And we make it simple for users to migrate their data lake to Iceberg formats from JSON and CSV using our Iceberg ingest tools. So customers can easily migrate to more nimble, transactional, and ACID compliant table formats, Iceberg table formats, and gain that substantial performance benefit compared to JSON and CSV. But we also know that you need choice and flexibility when it comes to table formats. And so our goal is to work seamlessly with other table formats. Under the hood, we want to make things as simple and performant so that you don't have to think about which table format you use. And so Dremio has long supported high performance read-only access to Delta Lake. And so that's been great. Customers can analyze that data using Dremio with the same performance that you get with Iceberg. But we're excited to announce that we've expanded our support for Delta Lake now to include time travel. So this is great because you can now compare historical point-in-time analysis, simplifying time series analytics in Dremio, using both Apache Iceberg, where time travel had long been available, and Delta Lake. You can look at historical data to identify trends, seasonality, and other time-dependent patterns to improve your understanding of the data and enhance predictive data models. And that's available now. Okay, moving right along. I do want to talk a little bit about how we're always expanding our connector ecosystem. We want to make sure that you have the broadest access to all of your data. So we really listen to our users about where we need to expand that ecosystem to make them the most successful. So we already offer dozens of connectors to common data sources and platforms. This is just a smattering of some of the connectors that we offer. But in version 24.2, we're excited to announce our new Apache Druid connector. Apache Druid is a column-oriented open source distributed data store written in Java, and Druid's designed to quickly ingest massive quantities of event data. And so now with the new Dremio Druid connector, you can seamlessly connect to your Druid data store with Dremio for analytics. Druid joins a few other also recent connector additions, including an improved Snowflake connector, a new DB2 connector, a MongoDB connector, and our Dremio to Dremio connector. All of those were released earlier this year. And then we also offer a third-party SDK that enables other organizations, analytics companies, governance companies, and tech companies to quickly develop their own connectors to Dremio. So stay tuned for what's coming next. Talking about connectors, I also want to just quickly mention our improved AWS Lake Formation integration. If you're familiar with AWS Lake Formation is a centralized permissions management tool in AWS, and it uses the AWS Glue Data Catalog, which is already integrated, which is already a connector and integrated into Dremio. But now we've made some integration improvements with Lake Formation so that now Dremio can inherit the really fine-grained access control enabled in Lake Formation. So you can now inherit row, column, and cell permissions set in Lake Formation. So if your company uses Lake Formation, this is a great enhancement. All right, finally, let's talk a little bit about SQL coverage. So Dremio is an incredibly powerful SQL engine, and we're always expanding our SQL coverage. So in our recent release, 24.2, we added 8 additional SQL array functions, and you can see those here. We also added the ability to create literal arrays. A literal array lets you define a new array with open brackets, and so those are really flexible, and those are available in 24.2 now. And we continue to add new array functions in 24.3, which is slated for the end late 2023, Q4 of 2023. So I think it's important here just to drive home that we're always looking at how we can expand our SQL coverage, and that continues to grow. I know we're coming to the end of our time, but I did want to take a couple of quick minutes to talk about DremioArctic. DremioArctic is our data lakehouse management service, which is currently available in preview in the DremioCloud. So, as I mentioned, DremioArctic is a modern lakehouse catalog. Arctic is built on open source projectnessie. In fact, Dremio's founders were the original creators of projectnessie, and they ultimately donated that project to open source. As I mentioned previously, Arctic is Iceberg native and supports all compatible engines, including Apache Spark and Flink. Arctic makes it really easy to manage multiple data domains across your organization. You can logically group data in views in an easy-to-use folder structure, and you can share those data views, and you can apply fine-grained access control at the table, row, and column level using Arctic. You can customize roles and integrations with existing user group directories like Okta, Azure Active Directory for SSO. Arctic has several core capabilities that really streamline and give a ton of power to Lakehouse management. Arctic is built to natively catalog and manage Apache Iceberg table formats. It tightly integrates Iceberg's optimization capabilities to enable even faster performance at the data lake, at data lake scale, including vacuuming and compaction. It centralizes data governance and security, and it also allows you to manage data versioning and branching, which we call Git for data. And I'll talk more about that in a moment. Okay, so Git for data or data as code. This is super cool. This is how Arctic lets you manage data versions. Much like a software development team would stage and test their software code before integrating that into production. Arctic lets you create new and separate data branches from a main data branch. And so users can experiment and test without impacting production data or other users. You can also ingest and curate data into a separate branch and then test it before merging it back into the main production branch. Arctic provides version control, so you can time travel and use historical data to reproduce models and dashboards. And even more importantly, you can roll back and recover from errors that impact production data or systems using that same branching and versioning mechanism. And Arctic also centralizes and scales data governance. It allows data product owners to delegate permissions, to manage that data easily, and it provides comprehensive auditing of data access and usage, tracking all data changes and instances when that data is even accessed. I mentioned Arctic's ability to ingest and optimize data. We've tightly integrated with Apache's table optimization capabilities, so they are easy to apply. Arctic can automatically rewrite small files into larger ones. It groups similar rows together to improve performance. It also automatically vacuums tables and removes unused manifest files and lists, as well as data files. And this cleanup runs in the background to ensure efficient storage and performance. We also simplify the ability to ingest your data from JSON and CSV into Apache Iceberg tables, so you can benefit from all of the benefits of Iceberg, including performance and ACID compliance and DML. So super great. So I just want to really click through here and show you some of the interesting applications and use cases for Git for data. So in this first scenario, you can see here, you can create an ETL branch and ingest the data with copy into and perform quality checks on that new data. You can test new dashboards, you can correct those problems, all before merging back into that production data line, that main production data line, much like you would test software code before merging that into production, right? You can easily roll back data to previous versions and fix any unexpected error. So here you can see this versioning path, and it's easy to roll back to previous versions and eliminate those mistakes where they occur. Arctic makes data experimentation for data scientists really easy and less risky. So with Arctic, a data scientist can create an ad hoc visualization or delete them, or merge them when complete, all without creating and managing their own data pipelines and source systems. So there's no need to copy data, build up another source system, build up a data pipeline. You can do that all virtually in Arctic. And then again, when you're happy with the result, you can merge that back. Or if you're just experimenting, you can gain those insights without ever merging back. You can reproduce models and analysis using time travel. So Dremio, in both Sonar and Arctic, support time travel capabilities, as we mentioned, on both Iceberg and now Delta Lake. But Arctic makes time travel even easier. You can reproduce models with change context or create models based on historical data. And last but not least, you can troubleshoot changes and you can see who changed the data. This comprehensive auditing makes it easy to keep tabs on how your data is being handled and when data might be vulnerable and at risk. All right, so we have covered a tremendous amount of ground today. I know that I've gone through really quickly. I really do hope that you'll take some time to check out some of these newer capabilities in Dremio. Some of the big ones that we talked about were our text-to-SQL with generative AI, our all new reflections, next generation reflections, and the reflection recommender to streamline and help automate the creation of new reflections to accelerate your queries. Some of our new SQL functions that have been added, our new connectors, and also Arctic, the Lakehouse management service that's available in dremiocloud. So if you're ready to get started and you're a current Dremio software customer, it's super easy. Just go visit the Dremio support portal and you can download that new 24.2 download from there. If you're a Dremio cloud customer, it's live. It's been there and you can go use all of these capabilities now. And if you're new to Dremio and you'd like to try it for free, there are a couple of different ways you can do that. You can go to our website and you can try the standard edition of Dremio Cloud or the self-managed community edition as well. And so we hope you go give it a shot and try some of those new capabilities and stay tuned for what's coming in the future. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so I wanted to just take a few minutes, everyone, and address any questions. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat or in the Q&A. I did have one question come in during the course of my presentation, and I wanted to address that. The question was on our text-to-SQL generative AI capabilities, and that question was, where is that feature available? And currently that capability is only in Dremio Cloud. And I think, the best way for you to kick the tires on that is to go ahead and go into Dremio Cloud and try that. We are innovating in our cloud platform and looking at ways to bring those innovations down the road into software. But for now, you can go ahead and use the text-to-SQL capabilities in our Dremio Cloud version. So I'm going to go ahead and just wait 1 second here and see if there are any additional questions and give you a chance to chime in. And while we wait for that, I just want to again let you know how you can go ahead and try all of these new capabilities that we talked about today. If you are in Dremio Cloud, you can use those capabilities. As I said today, those are already live. And if you are a Dremio software customer, it's really easy. Just go to our Dremio support portal and you can download that, that update. And then if you aren't a Dremio customer, we welcome you here today, especially go ahead and try one of our free versions, either software or cloud. And you can do that by going to our website, dremio.com. Okay, well, I don't see any additional questions. Y'all are quiet today. Maybe have another cup of coffee before you join me next time. And we do look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place for another Gnarly Data Waves episode. And we'll see you soon. Thank you.